James Norris moves on loan to Shelbourne FC, the latest Liverpool academy player to move out on loan. And as I have done with all the academy players up move this January, as somebody who watches the academy as regularly as I can, I'll try and give my best informed opinion to give insight to those fans. But I will preface that with I am by no means an expert. There are people who are far more qualified than me. I will just try to give my best informed opinion. James Norris, the 21-year-old left-back, will be 22 in April, so he is on the older side in terms of Liverpool academy players, although this season he has trained regularly with the first team, which says a lot about him. Arne Slot has incredibly high standards. If Norris wasn't up to it, if he couldn't cope, then he wouldn't be there. He's a player who's always had a lot of talent, although maybe timing has just not ever really fell his way. If he was one criticism, it maybe wouldn't even be of the player himself. It's just that first loan might have come a bit too late for him. He was 19, 20. As a player who broke into the academy side, making waves at 16, maybe it could have been a year earlier when he picked up that first bit of senior football, like proper senior football. So in terms of a senior experience that he does have sparing minutes for the Liverpool first team across 2 appearances. He was used in the EFL Cup tie famously against Aston Villa as a 16-year-old. But the big note here is that he spent last season on loan at Tranmere. Loans are something that are incredibly difficult to nail down and get perfect every single time. Even one of the times, really, to find the perfect environment for the player is very, very difficult. Sometimes for the first set of loans, it's about how you use that experience moving forward. We can look to the likes of Louis Barry, who didn't have the most perfect of times in his initial loans, but he's really used that experience in men's football going forward. In terms of Norris, I do think it was a fruitful loan in terms of the experience that he gained there. He did really have to work hard to get into that Tranmere team, and that wasn't always the case. He was used as a squad player in the opening months, and it was only the last 5 games of the season where he started 5 consecutive league games at left back, where you could say he really was the pick going forward. Before that, it was more of a squad role for Norris at times where he might have struggled, learned from his experience, put minutes in on the training ground, and to go through that for a young player I think is incredibly useful. Playing the squad role, being used to being out the team, the fact that he got back into the team bodes extremely well for him. He's not going to let his head drop, and overall I would say it was successful. And for the player himself, the talent has always been there. He was used at 16 in the first team, although in extraneous circumstances, but he's been a regular for the England youth sides up until around under 20 level as a left back. It has to be noted that he has been used in midfield as well, although I think there are circumstances around that. I wouldn't say it's a long-term position for him, but one of his best features is his tenacity, his intensity, his ability to cover ground, and that does translate well to that position. But the circumstances of which he played as Liverpool did have 2 talented left-backs at the time, James Norris, as we're talking about, and Owen Beck. And it was difficult to fit both into the same side. Norris had played as an attacking player in the earlier academy days, so it was him that moved into midfield. But we saw him used regularly as a left-back in professional football for Tranmere, which does reinstate my belief that this is probably his best position, his long-term position, although it does give him some tactical flexibility and a useful asset to the manager. Now, as you can probably see by the clips included earlier on, Norris has a really, really good, consistent ball-striking technique with his left foot. He can hit the box from a good range down the left-hand side. Those whipped crosses are really, really dangerous of his. And he's comfortable making both overlapping and underlapping runs. Norris isn't the biggest or strongest of players, but he does still play with a good intensity. Now, it's just about whether he can scale that intensity level up to playing week in, week out for the full 90 minutes, being able to stay switched on defensively as well, as to how well he's going to translate here. But it's an incredibly exciting move for all parties, really. Shelbourne are obviously a team with good momentum behind them, winning the league last season, a very different environment to the one Norris was in at Tranmere, who were fighting for their lives last season, so it'll be a nice change for him. And this is a league that we've seen Liverpool use in recent years to differing effects, but it does show that the club trust this league for players' development. Vitislav Jaros came and won Player of the Season at St Pat's, showing his talent, and Marcelo Pitaluga came over and didn't have the same success, but it shows the trust that Liverpool have.